Hi, Bill.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I got a quick question while we're waiting.
Sure.
What happens if you just start the whole process of pulling documents together in DocuSign and not even go into Command?
So there won't be any connection then between the two. So what that means is that when you go back into Command to pull the documents, you won't have that automatic link to DocuSign. You'd have to download all of your documents and then upload them individually. Or you'd have to upload them manually.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Did you do that for one of yours?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Perfect.
I got somebody else that did.
Okay. Well, maybe that one time the extra work will make them never forget it again, so.
Yeah, extra work's going to be me.
Oh, well, then never mind. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
We're going to give it one more minute to see if anybody else joins, and then we'll get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our DocuSign class today. Thank you for joining. We're going to briefly start with how to create and connect your DocuSign account in Command in case you haven't done anything with this yet. I have put the link to these instructions in the chat, so if you need to follow along more, if it takes you more time, like I said, we're going to go over them super quickly, so you may not have enough time. If you need to do it, you can use that link. If you have any questions during this course, please put them in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that and hopefully answer everything you have within this hour. So hopefully you can all see my screen. If you can't, oh, you don't see a link in chat. Okay, let me reshare it. There we go. Okay, I've got my screen shared with you. If you cannot see it, please let me know. These are the instructions for how to create and connect your DocuSign account to Command. In order to have this connection, you must create it through Command. You can't go to just DocuSign and create your account. So you're going to go into Command. You're going to click down on the little arrow next to your name. You're going to go into Settings. You're going to find DocuSign under the connections you can make. You're going to hit Connect Account. You will be asked to put in a name and an email address. Your email address is, we prefer that you use your KW one, but it is not required. I will say some people have had issues not using their KW email. If that's the case, go ahead and set it up with your KW email, and then you can go back later and change it to your preferred email address. It will send you an email, and you just, it looks like this, you just accept invite. Then you create your password and your security question. You accept their agreement. And then you'll go back into Command. And now next to DocuSign, it'll look like this with the authorize or resend email. You'll authorize, you'll put in your password, you'll accept the agreement again, and then you should be connected. If you have any trouble connecting, please email me after this, and I will either call or email you back so we can get you set up. So now we're actually going into Command. This is, again, where we start the whole process for DocuSign. This is what your home page of Command looks like, and we're going to be going to Opportunities. Opportunities is the transaction management portion of Command. And it's where we're going to go to start a DocuSign room. So Opportunities is the two little hands. And I've already created one. However, if you don't know how, or if you haven't created an opportunity, definitely stick around at noon, because Lori will be going over everything opportunity from creation all the way through commission. But we're going to go into one that I already have started for this purpose. We're working today with Snow White. So we're in our opportunity. This is the main page with the details. I've already put in the address that she's listing, and we're going to go to the documents section. So this is how it should look when you first get in there. You should not have any documents in there, and this will be start a transaction. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start a transaction, again, from our opportunity. And this is going to link us directly to DocuSign. And specifically, it will create a room within DocuSign. So if you were previously using .loop, this would have been a loop. We're now creating a room. And a room is where everything for that opportunity will be brought, all the documents will be brought in and then signed to later then be put back in Command. So we're basically creating a loop, right? We're going outside to DocuSign for the e-signatures, and we'll ultimately bring it back to Command. So your documents section is where it will initially pull you. If you want to view the details of this room, you can go to the details section. You can add any of this information or edit any of it by clicking the edit button. And you'll see now all of these fields can be filled in or changed. It did bring in some of the details of my opportunity. So you'll see it brought in my client's name, phone number, email, etc. We're going to go back to the documents section so we can pull in our documents. To add documents, you can either click Upload Documents or you can click Add. There are two options. So we'll go to Add, and you'll see that you have multiple places that you can pull documents from. You can pull them directly from your computer, zip form, one of these outside drives, or you can do DocuSign forms. DocuSign forms is where you can get GAR forms and FMLS forms. So we're going to hit DocuSign forms. If you've never done this before, it will come up with two different options of forms you can add. The first one is realtor ones. That's what you're going to select. You're going to input your NERDS ID. If you don't know that, there will be a little blue button to find your NERDS ID. You'll do that. And then you'll select the Georgia Association of Realtors. Once you do that, it'll be connected and you'll never have to make that connection again. We've already added our NERDS ID to this account, so the forms have already been added to here. So when you want to add a form, you'll select DocuSign Forms Library, which is what's already been selected, and then we'll select which library we want. Here you'll notice you have the two different ones, right? You've got your GAR forms and you've got your FMLS. You select which one you want. We're going to go with GAR. And then you've got the entire list of documents here. You can select as many as you want at a time and add them. And if you want to start narrowing them down, you can do so by just starting to type them in. So we're going to do the listing agreement. We're going to do the seller's disclosure. And we're going to do the community one. I always forget. There we go. So you can see I've got 3 forms selected, right? And I'm just going to hit add. You can add more forms at any time, so I don't have to add them all initially. It's fine. I can go back and add from all the different sources again. Once I've got them in this section, you'll notice that they show up as form, and I can click on any of them to input the information. Now this is not the signature portion. This is simply information that I, as the agent, would know. So you'll see in this listing agreement that it's got all of the fields available. So I can start typing in this information. So that when I get to the signature portion, this will be filled in as text and it will no longer look like these text boxes. It'll just look like it's already filled out. So I would go through and I would fill out the entire portion, everything that I needed. And you'll notice at the bottom that some information from my room has been pulled in. So we've got, Snow White and her information, Aaron's information as the listing agent. We've got all of this here. DocuSign is currently not pulling in all of the information of the details. So I highly recommend that you double check all of this and make sure that the form is filled out completely by your own doing and not relying on DocuSign to complete this. At some point, it should pull all of the information for you, like the property information, but it's currently not doing that. So once you get this exactly the way you want it, you can do save and close. I would do this with all the forms and I would get them like I want them. You can keep going back in and re-editing them, and they'll remain as forms here for you. Once we've got all of the forms ready and we want to send these out for signatures, we'll move to the envelopes portion of the room. So we're in envelopes, and initially yours will be blank like this. And you can create an envelope two ways, either by clicking here to create an envelope or clicking new. So an envelope is where you get all of the documents you want together, you add the recipients, and you ultimately send them out for signatures. You'll notice the name here. You can change this. Every initial envelope will just start out, please DocuSign. So if you know you're going to have multiple and you want to rename them, you can certainly do that, or add a little description. So we'll just do like listing agreement. And now I'm going to add my documents. So I have three options here. The first is room documents. The second is using a template, which we'll go over later. And the third is more. More gives you the option to upload. So this would be something that you have on your computer and you want to upload it into this envelope. And these other options are for outside drives that you may want to upload a document from. So maybe you keep these documents in your Google Drive and you need to upload it now to an envelope. We're going to go ahead and use room docs. So these are the documents that I pulled into that document section, right? The forms that I pulled in. And you'll notice that I have all three documents available here. Now, if I had more than I wanted, I would just choose which ones I want. I actually want to include all of them. So I'm just going to do add selected. And they all pulled in. Now, I actually prefer them to be in a different order. I want the listing agreement to be first. So I'm going to just drag and drop that in the proper place. So you just drag them in the order you want them. If you decide you don't want a document that's been added, you can just exit out and it'll get rid of that document. If you want to go and add more, you can do that through, again, these three options. And the next portion is to add the recipients. So GAR forms have what is called pre-tagged roles. These pre-tagged roles link to the slots that have already had signatures, text fields, etc. added to them once we get to the signature portion. So if you want all of those to appear, I would highly suggest you use the pre-tagged roles. So for instance, we're going to see that based on the documents I've included, we've got slots for buyer 1, buyer 2, seller 1, and seller 2, and the listing agent. So I'm going to select which people we're sending this to, which right now is just seller 1, Snow White, and the listing agent. Next to over here, we have the select option. So here we can add people to link to this person. So seller 1 is Snow White. Listing agent is Aaron. So you can go ahead and add those. If you don't have the person already in the list, you can leave it as select. Maybe. And you'll be able to select it later. Why it's not. Okay, so that didn't work how I wanted it to. You can delete them if you pull in the wrong people just through the delete button. So we're going to retry. Those pre-tagged roles should be here now. Okay, so that worked that time. I don't know why it didn't earlier. But you'll see that seller 1 came in with Snow White's information because I selected her name off to the side when I added seller 1. You'll notice listing agent didn't bring in any name because I left it as select. So at this time, you could go in and enter that person's information. You also have the option to add room participants or email addresses. Again, these will not be linked to any of the pre-entered signature and text fields when we move into the signature section. However, if you needed to add someone, you could certainly do that way. Over on this drop down, you'll notice there's a needs to sign. You have the option to add people who perhaps just need to receive a copy. So that would be maybe where you would add the email address. Say after everybody signs, someone else needs to receive a copy. Perhaps you have one seller who's married, but only the one seller is on the actual, the actual title of the house is the only person who actually needs to sign. Maybe you would include the spouse then as someone who needs to receive a copy just after the fact, but they don't actually need to sign this document. So you could do that there. You'll notice on the left-hand side, we've got 1 and 1. This is the order in which people will get this envelope to sign. So right now, 1 and 1, both the seller and the listing agent would receive the envelope at the same exact time to sign. If I wanted to change this, I could just do 1 and 2. You can have multiple people sign at the same time. For example, if I had, seller 1 and seller 2, and I both wanted them to sign at the same time, but I, as the listing agent, wanted to sign second, I could do that, them both as 1 and me as 2. Does that make sense? So you can choose however you want the signatures to go. So we're just, for the time being, going to delete the listing agent. And then the last portion of this section is the message. So this is how the email is going to appear. Your email subject when the signer gets this, what it looks like, and any message you want to include for them. We're just going to leave that as is now. And we're going to hit the next button. So now we're in the portion where you can add all the fields that you want filled in. So you'll notice on the left-hand side, all of the fields that are available to be added to this document. You've got signatures, initials, date signed. If you want it to fill with their name, if you want to add a text box, check boxes, you've got all of these that you can add in. You'll also notice here there's a drop down. Currently, I have only added Snow White to this. However, if you had multiple people you were adding, each person would be here and they would each be with a different color. So when you wanted to add fields for Snow White, I would click on Snow White. When I want to add fields for another person, I would click on that other person. All this information would still be here, however, it would be linked to their color. Then you'll notice on the right-hand side, we've got a thumbnails of all of the pages, and you'll see these little tabs in the color. So it'll show you what pages there are fields in for this person. So for instance, there's a field on page 8 for Snow White. It's already filled in for her to sign and for the date signed to appear. When I get to the bottom of the first document, you'll notice that I have little carrots down for my additional documents. So if you don't see them all at first, that's why you have to click down. You'll notice here, there are spots on each page for Snow White to fill out. So all of this should already be filled in with the correct fields for you. You should not have to go in and add the fields. seller's disclosure. So all of these fields. One thing to note about the fields, when the field is outlined in that person's color, for instance, these are outlined in yellow, but they are not filled in yellow. It means that they are not a required field. This is important to note because when your client receives the seller's disclosure, for example, which is possibly the trickiest one, DocuSign will not kind of initiate your client to fill these out. You will have to instruct your client that they need to fill out all of these. What will happen is they'll get to the seller's disclosure, they'll hit the next button, and it will automatically send your client to the end, page 7, where they need to sign. So if you don't instruct your client that they need to fill out pages 1 through 6 with the optional check boxes and text boxes and everything that the seller's disclosure requires, your client will not know to do that, and they will skip past that part and just go to the signature. Now, things that are required are done in solid color. So you'll notice here signatures, date signed are required items. These are the items that will be specifically pointed out by DocuSign when your client or whoever it is goes to sign. So you'll see here, it's in solid yellow and it's got a required field over here. Date signed, same thing as required. Now let's say something is missing, some field that you need them to fill out, or perhaps you even missed something when you were filling out the form in the documents section and you want to correct it real quickly. You can do two things. Obviously, you can drag and drop additional fields for any person. So text boxes, all you do is you drag and drop them, right? If you want them to not be required, you would simply click the required button. So now it's there, it's outlined in yellow instead of solid, which means, again, it's not a required field. However, it's optional for this person to fill it out. Now, say you wanted to, you forgot to fill out this field when you were creating or filling out the form in the document section, and you wanted to add it real quick. What you could do is drag over a checkbox, do read only, and then do checkbox value and have it pre-checked. So that means when this shows up for Snow White, it's going to look checked already and she's not going to have the option to uncheck it. And then same with the text. If we want it to be read only and then add in, when she gets this, it's going to be pre-checked with this text in there, and it's going to look like it was already filled out. It's not going to be an option for her. That's because we made it read only. If you need to edit multiple items at once, for instance, if you wanted to make all of this text required, you could just highlight all of it and then do required field. So we've got these documents exactly the way we want them now. We've got all the text filled in from when we previously filled it in the document section. We've got all the fields in correctly for Snow White. So she's got all the signatures in place. There's all the text boxes, all the check boxes exactly where they need to be. And we can even preview it from her point of view. So we go to Recipient Preview up here. And this is how Snow White is going to view this when she opens it up in her email. So we're just going to go through so I can show you how it skips over all of those not required fields in the seller's disclosure, right? Because the seller's disclosure, they need to fill it out to their best ability, but not necessarily everything will need to be filled out. So we'll go ahead and hit start, and you'll notice it drops her down to the bottom page of the listing agreement. which is correct in this instance, right? In the listing agreement, there were no other fields on any of the other pages. Now, obviously, if she wanted to read through it, which hopefully she does, since it's her listing agreement, she could certainly scroll through. But DocuSign is only going to send her to this section. She would sign, and then she would hit next, and it'll send her down to the bottom of the next document. So if there were all these to fill out, because this is the community disclosure, right? So she's probably filling out some of this. Again, she needs to be told that these are options to fill in and that she needs to fill it in to the best of her ability. So instead of hitting next, it's really just to scroll down, fill in the forms, and then finally initial. And then in the seller's disclosure, the same thing is true. All of these boxes are here for her to fill in. However, they are not required. So when you hit next, again, it will drop you all the way down to the signature portion, which is the only required portion of the seller's disclosure. Doesn't mean the other fields aren't needed. It just means it's the only one that's labeled as required. So any questions on that, on how it's viewed versus how, kind of how you need to explain it to your clients because those aren't required fields? Okay. So if you get in here, you can obviously send it if you're ready to go. The other option is to go back. For instance, if you forgot to add a document, if you forgot to add a recipient, or perhaps you're just not ready to send, you can just do back. Anything that you filled in, any additional text you wrote in, any fields you brought in will still be saved in there. So it's not like your work's not saved, it always is. From here, you can again make changes, or you can do save and close, and it'll be in here as a draft now. So if you want to get paperwork ready, but you're not really actually ready to send it, you can certainly do that, and then go back into the draft at any time. Once it is sent, this will appear like it'll say waiting for signatures. And then once everything is completed and you have all the signatures, it'll come back and it'll say completed. You can add as many envelopes as you need. So if you have this envelope and it's already been signed and done and you forgot an additional document you need, you can just go through the whole process again and do do new, add the documents you need, go through the signature fields, etc., and send. Are there any questions about that? Okay, I'm gonna go to another room real quick just so I can show you. Let's see. Maybe that's not the right one. So you'll see this is what it looks like when it's out for signature. So you can click on an envelope. You have the option to resend it, correct it, copy it, void it, etc. You can only correct if someone has not signed yet. So if Bianca had already signed in this instance, I couldn't correct. All I could do is void and then resend a different one. Once you're in the document section, say you've sent out this document, it's been signed. When you come to this document section now, you would have a form and you would also have a signed version. So it would be basically a duplicate of this that's now signed, and this would say signed with the green portion. So you'll have your original forms in there, So if for some reason you send out a document, it's been signed, and you realize it was incorrect and you need to resend it, you can go back to the original form, correct it how you need to, add it to another envelope, and resend it. So these forms are always here for you to use. And you can always edit them, because your signed versions will always come back as a signed, and it'll be a separate type of document. If for some reason you get out of DocuSign and you need to go back into it, again, when you're in this document section of Command, now you'll notice that I have a Go to Transaction button instead of a Start Transaction, because the link and the room has already been created. So now I could do Go to Transaction, and it'll bring me right back to that room exactly the way I left it. So now we'll go ahead and look at templates. To get to the templates, we're in the rooms currently. To get to the templates portion, if you want to create a template, you would go to your initials in the top corner and then do switch to e-signature. This is the page that will appear, and you'll notice at the top we have a template section. If we click on that, yours initially, if you have not created anything, this will be blank for you, and you can do new. So then you've got 3 options for how you can create this or upload a template. So we're going to just create. So now you're in the creation part. You get to title your template. You get to add a description if you want. And then you get to either upload or get from cloud. We're just going to go ahead and upload. Let's see. We'll just say this is a document that I like to include for all of my clients. So it's something that I want to create a template for so that there's already fields filled in and I don't have to do it every time. So I've pulled in the document I want. The next thing I'm going to do is add roles for this document. So that's those pre-tagged roles we looked at in an envelope, right? I'm going to create them here. So I'm going to say that this document is for my sellers. So I'm going to want 2 people to sign or have the option to sign, seller 1 and seller 2. Now I'm not going to enter a name and email because that's obviously going to change depending on the room it's in, because my sellers will always be changing, right? I'm going to leave them both as need to sign. And then if I wanted to, I could select signing order and I could have 1 and 2. But I'm actually going to leave it. I don't think that there needs to be a signing order. They can both get it at the same time, and that's fine. You can add as many recipients as you want. So you would just keep doing add recipient. If you added someone that didn't need to be added, or you want to delete an item, you can just do remove through the little X. And then I'm going to put in the email subject. I'm just going to kind of edit it so it looks a little better. If I want there to be a standard email message every time I use this template, I can put that in here. And then I'm going to select next. So now I've got my document, which is completely blank right now, except for the way I pulled it in. I've got my 2 sellers, which are those pre-tagged roles I created. And now I've got the ability to add the fields. So let's say on this document, I need both of my sellers to initial. just so I know that they received it, and this is kind of confirmation. So I'm gonna do seller 1. I put in the initial field. It's required. I'm gonna leave it as that. And then I'm gonna do seller 2. I'm gonna drag their field. Oh, I don't want the sign. I'm gonna do the initial. Again, it's required. If for some reason, like let's say I didn't change the field up right here, and I brought over these, and I'm like, wait, that's 2 initials for the same person. I don't want that. I can click on the one I want to change, and I can just change the recipient over here. So that's another way. But I've got this just the way I want it now. I just want the 2 initials. That's it for this specific document. Again, if I wanted more items, if I needed checkboxes, drop down radio buttons, etc., I could fill those in as needed. And then I'm going to do save and close. So now we've got our template created. I can use it 2 different ways. I can go to the use button once I'm in my templates. However, this is not normally how you would use it, again, because you'll have to go into the templates. Most of the time, you just want to add it to an envelope. So we're back in Snow White's room that I just created. We're going to go to an envelope, and we're going to go ahead and just start a new one. Now I've got the option to use a template. I've got, here it is, test 1. So I'm going to bring it in. Also to note on these templates is there are some templates that Erin has created for you that you may need to use. So she's got the wire fraud prevention notice that are in here, the pay at close request form, the affiliated marketing disclosure, and our 2020 W-9. If you need to use any of these, you will click on the use templates, just like we did, and these will actually be shared with me. Now in this specific account, they're not because I am in Erin's account. But in your account, they would be under shared with me. You would select, again, the ones you want, and you would be able to bring them in. So Erin has shared those templates with you, and you're able to use them. We're just gonna go ahead and bring in that test that I just created so we can see it. I'm gonna do add selected. And then I'm gonna add the recipients. And again, because I created those pre-tagged roles, I've got them here. We've got seller 1 and seller 2. I'm just gonna go ahead and assign someone, even though it's not correct. We'll just pretend it is. You'll notice here they pulled in exactly the way I wanted them with the correct people that I selected. They're both a number 1 because I did not choose to set the order. I thought them receiving it at the same time. If I wanted to change this, I could do it here. I'm just gonna leave the email subject as is. I'm gonna hit next. And now you'll notice that just like I created the template, there's both of their initials. So this worked the same way as those GAR forms did, right? In that it brought in the fields that I had already created for it. Now again, if for some reason in this template that I've already created, just this one time an additional signature field or an additional text field or something needs to be added, I still have that opportunity. Just because I use a template doesn't mean I can't add something to it. So you would add text, whatever you need to. Again, you could do recipient preview. And this time, because we have 2 recipients, we could change the recipient preview up here to get both of their views. So this one, we're viewing Erin, how it looks for her. And then we're viewing Snow White, how it looks for her. So you'll notice the color changes. And the initial box changes. So there we go. And then you would hit send when you're ready. Save and close. We've got another draft again. Are there any questions? Anything that you want me to go over a second time? Anything I didn't cover? I'm more than happy to. At this point, if you want to unmute yourself and ask, that's completely fine. Please go ahead. Any questions? Okay, since there's no questions and we have a couple more minutes, I'll just go into how these link back to command. Again, this will be covered in the next class right at noon with Lori, but in case you're not sticking with us and you don't feel like you need that one or you don't have the time for it, we'll just go over it real quick. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me and I'd be happy to answer those. So we're back in Snow White and we're in our document section. We've already started it. We've created the documents. Let's pretend we even have them signed. And now we're in here and we need to upload these documents. We've got several ways we can do that. You can do it through the add a file, attach multiple files, or add an item. But let's say for this one, we just want to do the exclusive listing agreement. I'm going to do add file. And you'll notice here, we've got the DocuSign option. Again, because we created that initial link through the start a transaction, we've now got the connection here. We've got all the documents that are available in that document section. If I had gotten these signed, there would be now these three in addition to 3 new documents that are labeled the same thing, but now they will have an additional dash signed next to it. So you'll always be able to tell the difference between your original documents and the signed version that has come back for you. For our sake, we're going to pretend like this is a signed listing agreement. I'm going to select that and I'm going to assign. You'll now notice that it's next to it. We've got the listing agreement and I've included a listing agreement. If for some reason I selected the wrong one, I could remove it. We're going to do attach multiple files this way so you can see it in addition. Again, we're going to select DocuSign since that's what this class is on. And now I've got my community association disclosure and my seller's property disclosure. So I'm going to hit the drop down. I'm going to select the one that relates. So community disclosure, seller's disclosure. Now I'm going to select my seller's disclosure and hit attach. Now you'll notice that those items are respectively with their correct item. So that's how you attach files. So that kind of completes the circle for us. Again, we started in command, in an opportunity. We did start a transaction. We created our documents in the room, in DocuSign. We sent them out through an envelope for signatures. We received them back, and then we went back to command to upload them into the document section of command. So that kind of comes full circle, and this is ultimately where you'll need them so that they can be reviewed and you can ultimately get paid. So Kelly, I see your question. You are currently not able to create a folder like that of documents you will always need. So you can create a templates folder However, I don't suggest that because when you create it in a template and then bring it in, it won't allow you to fill in all of those fields like you can when you pull them into the document section. So like on a listing agreement, right, you can't, if you had them in a templates folder, you wouldn't be able to fill out all of this information. So for right now, I believe that's coming, where we will be able to do a listing group or a seller group and all of those documents are come in. But for right now, I would just maybe have a checklist of documents you know you need. I know it's a little bit of an extra step, but. Are there any other questions?
No question, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for speaking up. I appreciate it. A little feedback.
Actually, I don't know if this is well, it is applicable in a sense. When we used to do dot loop, well, I don't know if it was dot loop, but I'm about to hopefully do a listing very soon. And I have, to be honest with you, I forgot all about the community association fees document. Is there a list of documents that should go with the listing? I'm sorry if this is off the class.
No, that's okay. You know what? Since we've got 10 minutes before Lori starts her class, so just go ahead with it. You know what? You can actually find these lists kind of in command in the documents. So you'll notice right here, we're in the listing section, right? So these are all of the documents that could possibly go with a listing, and they'll tell you whether they're required or if they're conditional.
Oh, okay.
So like for this instance, the listing agreement is required. That makes sense, right? But the community association disclosure, conditionally required if there is a homeowners association. So it lets you know kind of why you would need it.
Beautiful.
So you can just go down this list and notice what's required. So you'll notice here, the Rawls Group affiliated marketing disclosure and the wire fraud disclosure are required documents. And those were two of the templates that were created by Aaron.
Okay, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can use this in command as your checklist. And once you get to the under contract section, you can just click on under contract and the same type of checklist will appear.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm muting now.
Okay. Let's see. What about negotiating contracts? Can you upload the counter offer and modify it? Are you talking about can you upload the counter offer into this the document section of command?
No. So what I'm saying is, so say for instance, I send over an offer and the listing agent or whoever sends it back with like strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, let's say they send it back and of course the strikeouts require that my client initial them.
Mm-hmm.
Can we upload that and have them initial it there so that, you know, we're not changing the whole contract again?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are two ways you can do that. You can either add it here manually, right? Because you would probably have it like in some format that you would be on your computer, so you could upload it in the document section, or you can actually just upload it directly to an envelope for signature. So you could just do upload. Say this was the counteroffer that I had just received from the other agent, right? I would open it. Now it would not come auto-populated with those initials or signatures. But again, you would just go through add recipients. You would go add in those signature fields, initial fields, whatever needed, and then you could send it out for signature.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm actually going to leave the Zoom on because we're just going to roll right into Lori's class. I hope that you'll stay on for that. She's doing prep to get paid. So we're going to go over the entire opportunities portion of Command, from creating an opportunity to uploading those documents, to creating new versions. We're going to go through the offers portion, and we're going to end in commissions, which is where you'll learn how to submit commissions to get paid. That is the new green sheet coming. So I hope you'll stick around, but if not, have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kristin.
You're welcome.